Hey guys, my name is Bharat,
My name is Elena.
and in this video we want to speak about 5 points which are going to help you learn German much faster. Point 1. Language speaking websites. Now what do I mean by that? You have websites like italki, you have Preply and other websites where you are able to book calls with native German speakers and you're able to sit down with them and have some kind of conversation. These websites are very interesting when you are trying to push your speaking, because there's also a specific level for that. Like, you don't really need to kind of start with these websites right away because it can get expensive very quickly. But once in a while, having some kind of conversations with native German speakers, it actually makes a lot of sense because you understand what kind of slangs they're using, how they're communicating with each other, and sometimes maybe the bookish language that you're learning, they're going to help you improve it, and they're going to say, all right, maybe that's not the best way of saying it, you can rather say it in this way. I've been using it for learning Russian, and the thing is, for Russian you can still find tutors who are pretty inexpensive, so you don't need to worry about the cost so much with that. Same with Turkish and many other languages where you have so many people. With German, because the number of native German speakers who are teaching the language is very few, and the number of people who want to learn is a lot, so you have to see how much money you want to spend on that. That's very important, but this is definitely going to help you learn German faster when you're speaking with somebody. If you want to sign up on Preply, the platform that I'm using to speak to native Russian speakers and so on, you can also use it for German. The link for that you will find in the description.
Point 2 are websites like Students of the World, where you can meet other people who are learning the same language or who are trying to learn your language, so you can help each other out. You can try to practice writing letters to each other or emails, and then you can maybe sometimes even ask them if they would be up for some language exchange, practicing speaking.
So the most important thing with Students of the World is that this is a free platform. You don't need to spend any money for that on that at all, which comes with the second problem, and that is you will be spending a lot more time trying to find somebody who is serious about learning German, learning English, whatever, because it is free. Anybody can sign up. If they are serious or not, it does not really matter. So that is the one thing where you essentially are spending a little bit more of your time compared to platforms like Preply or italki, where essentially you are having somebody who is offering you to teach German or having a conversation in German, but it costs money, right? But I think this was a great starting way. I also used Students of the World in the starting to kind of speak to native German speakers, and it wasn't really speaking, it was more like sending each other emails. So you can do it okay, the first email I'm going to send you in German, the second email you send to me in English, you correct my German, I correct your English, and that's how you make a system with each other so that you're actually able to progress with the language.
Number 3 is watching cartoons in the language you are learning. Maybe you can use the subtitles for English so you can understand better, or even your mother tongue. From my personal experience, when I was trying to learn English better before my exchange year in the US, I was watching, for example, Gossip Girl in English, and then I put German subtitles, and that really helped me speak the language better.
So for me it was different. While I was learning German, I was watching this cartoon like Heidi, which is a typical German cartoon which most of the German children grow up with. And it is generally using very simple German and very clear voice actors so that you're able to understand things much better. How I was using the cartoons was that I'm using the language, the audio of the language that I want to learn, which was German, and I'm using subtitles of the same so that I'm able to compare. The problem that I find with, for example, Netflix. On Netflix, you have the section that you go to search by languages and you put some kind of language that you want to learn. The problem with subtitles on Netflix, which are not closed captions, are that they will have sometimes a completely different subtitle written, which makes things a little bit difficult at times. So for those scenarios, it might make more sense for you to essentially directly go for German cartoons, which are having the original language as German, and they're not dubbed or something, and they're also having closed captions. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, I also find YouTube very helpful, because YouTube essentially tries to translate the audio directly. So that is a lot more correct in order to kind of, if you want to understand what is being spoken, if you want to see what's written, right? So this is exactly what I've been doing for Russian right now. It's been 2 months since I'm learning Russian, and I'm at A1 plus level. I was speaking to my tutor today, and we were like, yeah, okay, like we kind of like covered the A1 stuff and we are heading towards the A2 story. So that's very nice. And I've been doing this with the cartoons called Hilda. This is a new cartoon which came up on Netflix. I found it pretty interesting. And then there's this cartoon called Peppa Pig. This is like for children 7+ years old or something. And I'm using Peppa Pig on YouTube because I'm able to kind of understand much better with the CC which YouTube generates, versus on Netflix, because on Netflix you don't really have so many options for Russian at the moment. But both of them have their own positives. Using cartoons are very, very important. The second sub point I want to make for this is that it's very important that you choose what kind of cartoons you want to watch. So Heidi is a really, really good cartoon choice because it deals a lot more about daily life. If you choose cartoons like, I don't know, Powerpuff Girls or what else, like Ben 10, whatever, right? Or Pokemon, things like that. What happens is you're going to learn a lot more of the vocabulary which goes into the fantasy side, like things which are unreal, things which are a lot less related to your day-to-day life, your day-to-day conversations, feelings, desires, things like that. And when you're going for cartoons which are dealing more with day-to-day scenarios, it's generally much better. So make sure you check what kind of cartoons you're watching. Another very important, I think, third sub point here is that use the German keywords in order to find cartoons and things like that. If you want to find a children documentary in German, you're going to write Kinderdoku Deutsch something. You put it on YouTube, you try to find that. If you try to now write inside children documentary in German, things like that, like you have like very difficult chances that you're going to find something relevant with these kind of search words. So that's also an important thing.
Point 4 is textbooks or notebooks. So I think Bharat can talk about the textbook part, but when I was going to school in Germany and we were learning English, like I think from 2nd or 3rd grade onwards, we had to write down like at least 20 vocabularies like every day. And then we have to practice them every day, and then towards the end we had to give a test, and then we also got the grades for that. So I think practicing vocabulary is really important, and writing things down in general in a notebook whenever you don't understand something.
So also another very important side to this is that when you are learning a language, it's very important to have some kind of textbooks with you, because if you don't have any kind of textbooks, this means you essentially have no structure at all. You don't understand where A1 ends, you don't understand where A2 ends, and so on. And this means you cannot really aim for a specific proficiency goal. So I really recommend that you have some kind of textbooks. I know there are many textbooks out there, Tangram, Netzwerk, Studio, things like that. You can choose which one you would like. I like the Tangram one because that's how I also learned German. Another thing that I was reading was that like if you essentially cover 2000 words or something of a specific language, that makes up for almost 87 to 92% of the language that you're already speaking. In day-to-day life, we are not using more than 3000 different words. And that is very helpful to kind of aim for the vocabulary list, because then you can try to find vocabulary lists which are the most frequent 1000 words used in German, the most frequent 2000 words used in German, and so on. So that's very important. And combine it with the specific levels of textbooks that you're using, because that way you're not just learning simple words, but you're also having the capacity of expanding those simple words when the need comes. Because at A1 level, you get some very, very simple like sentences and vocabulary. At A2 level, you kind of understand a little bit more of the grammar. So after the A2 level, you're already able to kind of focus a lot more on the vocabulary, because you have all of the basic grammar ready. You can just plug the words inside now and you can just make more expressions out of it. So textbooks are very, very, very important. You cannot really replace textbooks with anything else. I know there are many teachers who think differently. I really believe textbooks are important. That's the exact same thing when I started learning Russian. When I took the classes for Turkish and stuff, I also got the textbooks for that. So that is going to stay an integral part of my language learning. And I think I can recommend the same.
Yes, and I just wanted to add one last point about this. I think textbooks, but also the listening comprehensions of the textbooks are very important, because when we used to study in school, like we noticed every time how bad our language is when we were listening to the listening comprehension. Because for example, they have the scenarios like I'm on a train station, I'm asking for some direction, and then they also have the same speed how a native speaker would speak, and then you have to answer the questions to that. And many times when we started learning the language, we didn't used to understand what was happening in the listening comprehension, because if you watch movies or cartoons, I feel like everything is more slowed down, but in the listening comprehension you really get a feeling how like day-to-day language would be.
Yeah, I think like, to be honest, it's not really, we can try to give you a proper structure about like how should you learn German the fastest, but things still work differently for different people. For example, what Alina is saying about the speaking, speaking comprehension, that you kind of like listen to audio so that you're able to understand how people would speak at the normal level. Now, if you would directly do it at the A1 level, you will get demotivated really, really quickly. And this is why I would recommend, like when you're at A1, like it still makes sense to like kind of listen to things which are spoken a little bit more slowly. Once you're going towards A2, B1 and so on, makes more sense that you are able to kind of like, at least go through the audio and then you say, all right, I understand like 40-50% of this, and then that keeps on improving. So that's also something that you should keep in mind.
And I think the listening comprehension can also prepare you the best for the like Goethe test, for the speaking and listening part.
The thing is that most of the students essentially, like they always complain about how difficult listening is for them. And they're like, how can they improve listening? And I always say like, the only way you can improve listening or any other thing is just by practicing. Like, there is no like magic pill that I say, okay, like, just these are the words which are always spoken and just put this inside in your like notes or something and you're going to like understand things better. No, like if you want to practice something, if you're struggling with listening, you just listen to more audio. There's no other way of handling that.
And the last point is reading stories. So Bharat and I recently launched our German stories because when Bharat was learning Russian, he found this to be very helpful, and this inspired us to make our own version of it.
Now, stories are very helpful because stories give you vocabulary in context of something. This is also exactly the reason why we built the German stories, so that you're having the German text right here, you have the English text right here. You don't have to spend time on Google Translate going back and forth all the time. You can directly see the translation of whatever word you're having on the right side. And this helps you to remember the vocabulary in a particular context, and it makes the language learning a lot more fun because stories are something that people generally never forget, especially when they're interesting. So this was a video from our side about our experiences of learning foreign languages and what has helped us the most. You can also enroll in our completely free mini course, which is called the Faster German Framework. It just has 5 lessons and kind of takes you through what we believe how language learning takes you through things the fastest. And you can enroll in it without any kind of cost whatsoever. The link for all of the things that we have discussed in this video you will find in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one.
Bye.